Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Vinu Sandhu. It's the 3rd of August 2023 and here are the questions we will be answering today. Will Manipal be Byju's white knight? Can below normal August rains affect food inflation? Should you trade in a range-bound market? And how is a low-cost airline different from a full-service airline? Finally, some good news for troubled edtech startup Byju's. Manipal Group Chairman Ranjan Pai is in talks to invest in Akash, which is owned by Byju's. Byju Ravindran, who holds a 30% stake in Akash, is expected to partially offload his stake to Pai and use the money to repay a big loan. In today's first segment, Dibagyo Sanyal asks if Manipal's entry will help Byju's. Let's listen in.
After a string of bad news, a beam of hope seems to be emerging for Byju's, which was till recently one of the world's most valued edtech startups and a darling of investors. Manipal Group Chairman Ranjan Pai is in early talks to invest in Akash Educational Services Limited, in which Byju's has 30% stake. Pai was one of the early investors in Byju's. He had first invested in the edtech startup in 2011 through his venture capital fund RN Capital. RN eventually exited the company. This time, sources say, Pai is in talks to invest through his family office. According to sources in the know, Byju's founder and Chief Executive Officer Byju Ravindran is expected to partially offload his holding to Pai for around 650 to 740 crore rupees. The sources said that Ravindran may use the money to repay a large part of the 800 crore rupee loan that Byju's raised from US-based investment firm Davidson Kempner Capital Management in May after facing a technical default. But there are some road bumps ahead. Byju's has been facing trouble with Akash lately. News agency PTI has reported that Think and Learn Private Limited, which operates under Byju's brand, has sent a legal notice to the Chaudhary family, the founders of AESL, after their alleged resistance to complete the share swap that was unconditionally agreed as part of its sale. Reasons for their reluctance to do a share swap include due diligence and corporate governance issues, Byju's inability to file its financials, legal battles with lenders, challenges in raising fresh capital, and a markdown in its valuation by investors. Meanwhile, Pai heads the Manipal Education and Healthcare Group, which includes the Manipal Global Education Services and EdTech platform Unext under its umbrella. This has led many to speculate that Pai's investment, if it goes through, may also open doors for future advisory roles to help Byju's on the management and governance front. So, how will the entry of a traditional player benefit or affect Byju's?
The entry of someone like Ranjan Manipal into an educational institute would be positive. Having them on this group would be very powerful for multiple reasons. One is Manipal, of course, runs an excellent set of institutions. They do very well. They understand physical educational requirements, and having their expertise to help and assist and understand how that market works will be very good. They have always approached all investments with extremely high governance, extremely high thoughtfulness, and adding that, whether that to the board or in some advisory capacity or in some investment capacity, is positive.
It is not that he is putting money into Byju's. He is putting money into Akash, and we don't know as to on what terms he is putting money in. It could help Byju's because Akash is a cash-generating, well-established brand. So from that perspective, this takeout of Byju's or any fund infusion into Akash could rescue Byju's to some extent or provided some air cover at least. Byju's obviously has a bigger issue at play, which is to fix that governance. I don't think it is going to change just because of Manipal investing in Akash. That is a completely different ballgame. And Byju's, for all we know, may completely be exiting of Akash. And as they say, the Taj Mahal is always up for sale. So it's a question of at what price.
While experts are confident that Pi's investment will only bring in glad tidings for the EdTech unicorn, they do emphasize that it might be too early to speculate on exactly how the Manipal chief's involvement with Byju's might shape up in the future.
Online education pioneered by the likes of Byju's has opened a host of avenues for students. Learning doesn't stop now, whether it's a pandemic or heavy rains. Speaking of rains, India's official weather forecaster has said that rains will most probably be on the negative side of the normal, meaning in the range of 94 to 99% of the long period average or LPA. This comes at a time when vegetable prices are seeing a spike. Tomato has been selling for over 150 rupees a kg for a while now. So will the below normal August rains hit food inflation? Ayush Mishra finds out.
The Indian economy, which heavily relies on agriculture, is facing uncertainty due to the prediction of below normal rains in August by India Meteorological Department or IMD. Monsoon rains in August are projected to be below normal at less than 94% of the long period average or LPA, the Indian Meteorological Department said on Monday. Below normal rains in August, which account for almost 30% of the seasonal rainfall, could have an adverse impact on standing kharif crops, particularly in areas which are water stressed and where crops are at maturing stage. Economics Research Department of Bank of Baroda said that erratic rainfall across the country has resulted in lower kharif sowing this year, which is likely to translate into higher inflation in the near term. Former director of Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research, S. Mahendra Dev, explains the impact of below normal rain in August on food inflation.
The impact will be there on food inflation because if you see the June food inflation was higher as compared to May, and July food inflation, which will be announced on 12th, will also be higher because the tomato prices and all. But in August, the price will be also affected, food inflation, because there were excess rainfall in some areas which affected the crops, for example, Punjab, Haryana and all. And in other areas, there is a deficit. But the impact is less than what the people expected because of El Nino, because El Nino has marginal impact so far. But El Nino can have impact in August. That's what IMD says. So due to all these factors, I think food inflation could be higher in the coming months.
Speaking to Business Standard, Bhushan Sharma of CRISIL said, for field crops like moong, urad, groundnut and soybean, lower rainfall could lead to flower abortion. This may have an adverse impact on productivity of these crops.
Actually, there are already some crops which are already affected by excess rainfall in the month of July. For example, some of the pulses, mung bean, urd bean, they are already suffered very heavily. Now, there is a possibility that Byju, which is one of the very important kharif pulse, will be affected because it doesn't require much kind of water. Now, the issue will be, this is in regarding soybean, some of the oilseed crops. Again, soybean, if suppose there is a very delayed rain in the month of August, then possibility that soybean production will be little down. And therefore, there will be an impact on the inflation of oil. So oil and pulses, maybe. Cereals, there will be no problem.
The Reserve Bank of India in its June forecast had cut its projection for the Consumer Price Index in Q1 FY24 sharply to 4.6% from 5.1%. and Q2 estimates have been lowered from 5.4% to 5.2%, while the forecast for Q3 and Q4 has remained unchanged at 5.4% and 5.2% respectively. The Monetary Policy Committee meeting, scheduled from August 8 to 10, will evaluate the potential repercussions of insufficient rainfall on crop yields and food prices. Sunil Sinha from India Ratings and Research anticipates that the RBI MPC may maintain a pause on rate hikes amid present inflationary conditions.
Looking at the current trajectory of inflation, whereby we see that the items which command 44% weight in the CPI, they are still witnessing an inflation of in excess of 6%. So irrespective of what happens to the monsoon in the month of August, my hunch is that overall inflation, even if the rainfall turns out to be normal in the month of August, is not going to make much of a difference to the inflation, to the CPI inflation. So if CPI inflation in the near term is unlikely to come anywhere closer to 4%, then my sense is that RBI will continue with its current stance of maintaining a pause on the policy rate. And this could be the case for the entire fiscal, is what I see.
The prediction of below normal rainfall in August has raised concerns regarding food inflation and its potential impact on the country's economy. Water-intensive crops like rice may particularly face adverse effect on their yields, resulting in elevated food prices and inflationary pressure. The RBI MPC is expected to conduct a meticulous assessment of inflationary risks before taking any decision.
The fight against inflation is waging across the globe. The US Fed recently jacked up interest rates for the 11th time since March 2022. Back home, Indian equity markets are trading range-bound for the past few weeks. Now, what are the next triggers for the market and how should investors trade during these times? Lobisha Darat brings a detailed report.
Domestic markets marched to an all-time high on July 20 amid steady foreign capital inflows. While the S&P BSE Sensex touched a record high level of 67,619, Nifty 50 hit fresh highs of 19,992. Since then, both the benchmark indices have shed over 2% each and are trading range-bound. On Wednesday, however, the markets lost ground in line with global peers following the rating downgrade of US to AA+ from AAA by Fitch. In the last few months though, the volatility gauge India VIX dropped 14% from July 20 levels to a record low of 10.13 on July 28, only to climb up to 11.2 levels on August 2nd. Given the developments, analysts recommend investors to take some money off the table and reinvest once the market stabilizes.
They need to take profits because even now markets haven't fallen much from the recent highs. They've fallen just about 2%. So they need to take some profits where they have seen a very good run-up, raise some cash which can be deployed once we see the stability in the market.
Technically, support for Nifty was seen in the range of 19,375 to 19,450 levels. Against this backdrop, which sector should investors bet on and avoid?
In the near term, among the sectors, PSU, metals, healthcare and capital goods have scope to rise some more, whereas banks, IT, oil and gas and auto are looking a little top heavy.
Despite the nervousness, analysts remain optimistic on the markets from a long-term perspective. All eyes are now on the global central bank policies, analysts said, amid hopes of a rate cut.
Now, what can be the trigger point from here for the markets would be, I think inflation is going to cool off further and most of the central banks across the globe will start cutting interest rates. Now, this will aid market to a new trajectory with interest rates cooling off, inflation coming down and gross margin expansion taking place in most of the companies.
Overall, analysts advise investors to avoid panic selling and adopt a stock-specific strategy. On Thursday, that is August the 3rd, investors will track global cues, June quarterly results of India Inc., rupee movement, and crude oil prices.
He's making plans for an early retirement. Business Standard.
Other Asian markets too crashed on Wednesday after Fitch downgraded US sovereign rating from AAA to AA+. Meanwhile, on another front, Vistara Airline is preparing to merge its staff with Air India. The Tata Group is looking to merge its two full-service carriers. It has also announced plans to merge low-cost carriers Air India Express and Air Asia. But have you ever wondered about the difference between a low-cost carrier and a full-service carrier? Mayank Pandey explains.
Low-cost airlines have relatively low-priced tickets as compared to full-service airlines. But the legroom in the cabin of these airlines is less, and they don't serve snacks and drinks to flyers. Full-service airlines, on the other hand, have relatively higher-priced tickets. Depending on the duration of the flight, they provide snacks, meals, and drinks to passengers. They also have provisions for pillows and blankets for flyers. Overall, they provide a more enriching and complete experience to customers and thus sell their tickets at a premium. Full-service airlines tend to focus on network profitability. Low-cost carriers concentrate on route profitability. While the low-cost carriers prefer not to serve a route if they do not have enough passengers, full-service airlines will let a marginal route survive if it feeds passenger traffic through a hub and onto a highly profitable route that helps subsidize the less profitable routes. Low-cost airlines rely heavily on ancillary revenue to make profits. Fares on low-cost airlines are sometimes so cheap that they earn very little to no money for the airline. This is why these airlines explore options to make money from ancillary sources, including the revenue from checked-in bags, on-flight snacks, and upfront seats sold. Full-service airlines charge a flat ticket price and everything is included therein. Another difference between low-cost and full-service airlines is that low-cost carriers usually operate only one type of aircraft, and full-service airlines operate several types of planes. This is generally done because running just one type of aircraft is cheaper, as the maintenance facilities required will be the same for all of these planes. Moreover, the employees also have to be trained to work with just one type of plane. It helps low-cost carrier to standardize things across the organization. These steps go a long way in keeping the cost and therefore the fares down. The full-service airline operates multiple planes as it allows them to offer services to more destinations and choices.
Nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
The integration of full-service airlines Vistara and Air India is, however, subject to regulatory clearances. The Indian regulator has raised antitrust concerns over the merger. Well, that's all for today. For more news and analysis, please log into our website business-standard.com. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.